What's going on, everybody? Norris here, back with another episode of album reaction. We got the new album from Eminem, The Death of Slim Shady. So this is his latest release. About a few days ago, Eminem dropped this behemoth of an album. A lot of controversy, but I mean, that's Eminem. Most of his music basically has been that. A lot of anticipation for this album. I actually first heard about this through, I think it was like an interview. I think it might have been Jimmy Kimmel, one of those late night shows. Dr. Dre was being interviewed. I think it was like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, but Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, they're being interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel, and Dr. Dre basically brought up that Eminem was releasing an album for this year, and it made a lot of people in the crowd kind of go like, ooh, so you already know. I mean, it's Eminem, man. Like, on a lot of people's list, he's the #1 greatest rapper of all time. For me, he's number 7 on my 104 list in the top 10. For me, I always thought he was number 7. I've been pretty pumped for this album ever since I heard Eminem was dropping an album this year. One of the best rappers to ever exist, in my opinion. I was a bigger fan of his back in the day when he first started out, like his first 3 or 4 albums. Around the time when Slim Shady was like still alive, I guess you can say, that's when I was more of a fan of Eminem. And then he went through a phase where I think it had to do with the drugs, because he had a bunch of drug addictions going on while he was like super famous, continuing to like rise on the charts, and just like in terms of just being famous for what he does. He was doing a lot of drugs, and he was addicted to a lot of drugs during that time. And I think it might have been the biggest reason why his music sort of took like a dip for like a good maybe 6 to 8 years. I feel like after he started to sober up a bit and stop the addictions that he had, his music started to get a little bit better. I'll say around the release of Revival, that's when he started to get back to like Eminem, you know what I mean? Instead of him trying different stuff, he's kind of like rapping like he's supposed to. Very high lyricism and great beat selection. Eminem kind of has like his own style that he likes usually sticks with whenever he is making great music. It's just such a distinctive, original style. Nobody raps like Eminem, and if they do rap like Eminem, they're basically copying him. We already know those kind of rappers. There's a lot of rappers that sound like Eminem, but they're copying his style. You know what I mean? Eminem's the original, more than just like a white rapper and everybody's just blown away like, oh, this white guy's rapping. Like, this guy is a lyrical genius. He's a lyrical technician. He's like a nerd to like the hip-hop art as a whole. Got this album, The Death of Slim Shady, this most recent album I'm about to break down. I knew this album was gonna be good just because it's Eminem. Like, that's usually how I look at it. The later version of Eminem, I think, he's at his absolute best. Eminem's gotten better over the years, and he's now in his 50s, which is crazy. He doesn't look like he's 50. I think he's at his best in terms of like the different type of Eminems that we've had over the years. I think he's gotten better and better every single year, and he's at his absolute best. Even though he's 51, I think this is the best version of Eminem compared to like music he's made in the past, which is really cool, because usually with rappers, their first album is the best, and then year after year after year, album after album, they slowly get worse and worse. So it's really cool to see Eminem continue to get better and better. Just like usual, I'm going to give you guys a breakdown about the album, give you guys a summarization, how I feel about the album. Yeah, man, Eminem, The Death of Slim Shady. There's a lot of superstar producers that I definitely have to highlight before starting the first track. There's about 12 producers that worked on this album. Like, the most popular names I'll say is Don Cannon, DJ Premier, and also Dr. Dre, of course, right? Dr. Dre. There's other pretty popular names on here too, but like those ones I think have the most credentials on the album. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see him working with Dr. Dre on this one. Definitely, that's like a classic duo. I'll play 3 songs from this album. Alright, so first track, this one's called Evil, produced by Don Cannon and Q Beats.
Capsule is traveling like a javelin through my abdomen. My stomach's unraveling. Might end up having Slim say some shit you feel fucked up.
Next song, this one's Road Rage, featuring Dem Joints and Slide Piper. This one was produced by Dem Joints and Dr. Dre.
So things ain't never really really truly over till this don't seems like I won't say that. We should coddle fat people. Yeah, here's a concept.
This one's called Habits featuring White Gold. So this one's produced by White Gold himself, featured on the song, and Narza.
Prescription, man. Goddamn, I miss you, son. You got an addiction, man.
Eminem, the death of Slim Shady, legendary rapper, man. This guy's been doing it for a long time, from Detroit, Michigan. Probably has the most fans out of any rapper right now. Like, you can definitely say that. He's from like the 90s, so it's really cool to see a rapper from that era, the 90s, as the #1 rapper till this day. This guy's basically been the #1 rapper in terms of like sales and like fame for like the last 30 years, which is like pretty crazy when you think about it, right? But that's the case, man. Absolute legend and a pioneer when you really look at it, in terms of like taking the lyrical side of hip-hop to like the next level. Eminem's definitely a pioneer, a living legend. Top 10 on my list. That could change. He can probably go up, especially after this album. There's just a lot about this album. Extremely controversial. There's a lot of things that he's saying on this, but see, like, this whole album was designed to be like that though, which makes it a little more special. One of the best albums ever put together for that reason. The fact that he kind of stuck to that same like idea and topic, trying to get himself canceled by saying a bunch of, I wouldn't say shock value, but just controversial things, to be completely honest, man. Saying a lot of things that he knows is gonna get under a lot of people's skin. And I mean, before this album, there's definitely a handful of famous people that didn't like Eminem, just from like past beefs. And Eminem, like, he's been saying a lot of crazy stuff, like ever since he started with Dr. Dre way back in the day, man. Maybe outside of his serious era, where he was taking it a little more serious in terms of like the topics he would use in his songs, instead of being all like joking about it, which he kind of like goes back to that joking style on this album, which I like a lot. This is a type of rapper that's been getting a lot of hate, even though he's probably the most popular rapper to ever exist, maybe outside of Drake, I'll say. This is a rapper that gets a lot of hate for like the things that he says, and he purposely does that. Maybe not out of getting more clout, because really Eminem doesn't really need that. He doesn't really need extra clout. He can use his rap skills to generate numbers and money and album sales. Like, he's a legit rapper that can do well just off of making great music, right? But I think it's just the type of person he is. He doesn't care like at all about, I won't say anything, but he doesn't care about people like disliking him or not wanting to play his music because they're being offended by what he's saying. Like, he does not care at all. And I think this album was just a way for him to really like tell the world that, and he did it in the most perfect way possible. Yeah, man, like the whole purpose of this album was to get himself canceled. That's the whole thing, right? The death of Slim Shady. And I think that concept is absolutely genius for a lot of reasons. I think at the same time, you think that he would just get canceled, just like he was trying to, and just like he said, just the whole idea of the album, right? He's purposely trying to get himself canceled, but I think it's gonna do the opposite. And obviously it's gonna do the opposite because it's Eminem, but clearly based off of the numbers you're seeing off of each song, everything is surpassing 2 million plays and views. That's a good idea, that you know that people are at least listening to it. Maybe some people like, some people dislike it. Maybe it could be 50-50, 40-60 or whatever, but I think he did a genius job at promoting for the album and making it the way it is, because I think it's only gonna make people want to listen to the songs, even if it's like he's saying a lot of crazy stuff, saying a lot of stuff that a lot of people is gonna hate. I think it's a smart idea to do that, because it's just gonna like make more people want to listen to the music rather than not listen to it. Because you got to think about it, right? If Eminem's coming out with an album and he's purposely trying to get himself canceled, you think people are just gonna like, oh, I know this is gonna offend me, so I'm not gonna listen to the song. Like, the opposite's gonna happen. I feel like controversial stuff sells, and he played into that perfectly. He is 51, so he has the wisdom to understand that whole concept, to try something like this. Listening to the music, the album itself, man, damn. That's all I gotta say is damn. The whole anticipation of the album, bringing us to the day it gets released, I just had a feeling that it was gonna be really good. He's one of the greatest rappers to ever exist. Just based off his catalog, his discography, can really do damage to beats with his lyricism, his rhyme combinations, his schemes. He has a really great understanding of like how hip-hop works and how it's supposed to be done, man. And his pen work, it's only gotten better over the years. Just like I was saying earlier in the video, like this is a pretty crazy year for hip-hop albums, man, because we've been getting a lot of bangers, man, especially after the Lupe album. You know what I mean? I thought this album had a lot of competition. It didn't disappoint, bro. He talks about a lot, man. Every like touchy topic that gets passed around nowadays that a lot of people will get canceled for, especially comedians. That's probably a big thing. This album is almost like a comedian made a rap album. I think the beats are all good on this one. Got DJ Premier, Dr. Dre producing on there. Eminem's a great producer himself, so the beats, I thought the beats were gonna be really good before listening to the album, and they didn't disappoint. There's almost 20 tracks on here, but it didn't make me want to skip tracks. It didn't make me think like, oh, this album's taking too long, or oh, there's too many songs on here. Like, I didn't think about that at all, man. It was a very smooth listen, track by track by track. I didn't skip anything. I didn't have to fast forward through anything. This might have been the best album I've heard from Eminem, maybe outside of Marshall Mathers LP. He had this album called Infinite. It's his first album he's ever released. A lot of people don't know about that album because it was way back in the day. Like I said, Eminem is from the 90s. He is a very old rapper, so a lot of people won't know about that one, but Infinite, I still think is one of his greatest albums. Kamikaze was pretty good too, but I'll say those two, Marshall Mathers and Infinite, I'll only take those albums over this most recent one. This one's good, man. Like, I'll probably say him, Lupe Fiasco, and Kendrick Lamar are like, bro, miles and miles above every rapper that's like going on right now, man. Like, he's killing these rappers, bro. That's all I gotta say, man. Based off of the albums that I've heard so far this year and from last year, like, they're doing nothing to this album. They're not touching this album, man. Nothing bad I gotta say about it, bro. This album's not for everybody. A lot of people are gonna get offended by this album, and a lot of the stuff that he says talks about gender. He talks about obese people, obesity. He talks about like mental disabilities. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he talks about all of the things that people usually get offended by. Just like what the album says, bro. Like, he's really trying to get himself canceled, man. Just like he said. And I think based off the name of the album, what you actually get throughout the album in terms of music, the whole concept of the death of Slim Shady, to have all of these songs all in one album, the features, the producing credits, like, I can't give this anything less than a 10, bro. This is a 10 out of 10. I gave Lupe's album a 10 out of 10, and I'm now giving this album a 10 out of 10. I can't give this album less than a 10, man. There's not one song on here where I thought it was just like, okay. Every song is very different from each other. Every beat is very different from each other. Eminem's rapping at an extremely high level. There's not going to be a lot of albums that you're going to hear that's at the same level. He just did his thing on this one, man. 10 out of 10, man. I can't say anything bad about this one. Classic album, probably my favorite album by Eminem, and one of my favorite albums I've heard all year so far. This is like the year of hip-hop, bro. Like, I don't know what it is, but I'm feeling like hip-hop's coming back just a bit, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like it was dying a bit. Lupe's Samurai album, you know what I'm saying? Schoolboy Q's Blue Lips album. Getting albums like that is giving hip-hop hope. Hopefully we get more classic albums the second half of the year. That's all I gotta say about this one. 10 out of 10. Eminem, The Death of Slim Shady. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction video. Got plenty more. I'm doing 2 reaction videos a week now, so expect another one coming this week. New track, Dragon Propane, dropping July 24th, and also a new mixtape dropping for October 4th. 15-track mixtape, hashtag INDICA. It will not disappoint. This is gonna be the banger of the year. I promise you that. Plenty more content on the way. Of course, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, man, I'm out of here. Peace.